Good evening. I hope you've all managed to find somewhere to sit. On behalf of the Bangalore International Center and the International Music and Arts Society, it's a great pleasure to welcome you all to this evening of jazz by pianist Sharik Hasan. Sharik was last at the BIC in November 2019. Some of you may remember he played for the annual Foundation Day, and we are delighted to now have him back. He's also had a long association with the International Music and Arts Society. He's played for them several times. His first concert for them in 2008, and then most recently in 2018 he played with his band Mindflow. For a brief introduction, Sharik Hasan is one of the leading pianists and composers of his generation to emerge from India. His tryst with the piano began at the age of 5. And by 16, he had completed the curriculum of the Royal School of Music, London. He then went to the US to Oberlin College and Conservatory to study music, where he made an important switch from classical music when he was drawn to jazz. He later studied in Paris and played all over Europe, won a scholarship to the Berklee College of Music in Boston to their prestigious Jazz Studies Institute honors program, and then he did a master's at Manhattan School of Music. He now teaches at Berklee and is based in New York City, where his exceptional virtuosity and versatility have made him the top call pianist for many well-known bands and venues. He's performed at major festivals and venues all over the world, including the Blue Note, Lincoln Center, New York, the Newport Jazz Festival, Nancy, Creole, Panama, Mondrian, you name it. He's also shared the stage with many jazz luminaries, Wayne Shorter, Joe Lovano, Sean Jones, Jeff Tain Watts, among others. Sharik's latest album with his band, Mindflow, titled From Time, features his original compositions. His fluid improvisations convey a natural sense of storytelling, and all the while there's a kind of fluidity in both jazz and Indian classical idioms. Today's program will be explorative, using standard jazz repertoire and his original compositions as a vehicle for improvisation. The International Music and Arts Society would like to thank the BIC for being collaborators on this program, and would like to thank the sponsors, Mr. Kirloskar of Kirloskar Electric, a staunch supporter of the IMAS, and Furtados, our partner for piano concerts. I'd like to also acknowledge Sharik's parents, who are here with us today, Sultana and Siraj Hasan, who are members of the BIC. A detailed biography for Sharik is on the BIC website, but I'd like to close with a review of one of Sharik's concerts in the Hindu that I always remembered. It somehow stayed with me. It said that he was never less than brilliant at any time. And it's true not just of that concert, but of every concert of his that I've heard, and really practically of everything he's ever done. So with that, I'd like to welcome on stage Sharik Hasan.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. So tonight I'm going to play a variety of pieces. This first one that you heard is classic Solar, one of the well-known jazz standards, jazz compositions, I should say, written by Miles Davis. And I think across the course of this concert, I'm going to try to play things from various composers and from different parts of the world. So maybe some of the things you might have heard before, but I think there'll also be quite a few new pieces that you haven't heard before, and pieces from different parts of the world. So there'll be some music from South America, Brazil, Argentina, as well as the Middle East, and as well as some of my own compositions, maybe some Indian classical influence, some Western classical influence, and finally some original compositions of mine as well. So the next piece is going to take us to Iran. This is called Isfahan, and it's by Billy Strayhorn and Duke Ellington, and was part of Duke Ellington's Far East Suite. This is Isfahan. Thank you very much. So I've always been interested in Brazilian music, and I think that when we think of Brazilian music, there are probably a few names that come to mind. Maybe "Girl from Ipanema" and all those kind of tunes, and Antonio Carlos Jobim, one of the great composers of bossa nova, Astrid Gilberto. But there are a whole lot of composers, amazing composers from Brazil, and there's some there's one that I came across recently called Lea Freire, and it's a piece that I thought was fantastic, and it's quite challenging. It's in 7/4 meter or 7/8 meter, and it's maybe a little bit different from what most of us are used to hearing when it comes to Brazilian music. So I thought I would play this piece. This is called Brincando com Teo, which means playing with Teo. So the next thing that I'm going to do is something quite different. In my daily practice, I play quite a bit of classical music, not so much to perform, but just for my own education. I just try to play something every day and learn from all the great classical composers. See what they're doing in terms of orchestration of the piano, writing for the piano. And one composer that I came across is goes by the name Moritz Moszkowski, a German composer of Polish descent who lived in the 19th and 20th century. And what interested me about him is, I think he has complete mastery over writing for the piano. Someone who had that reputation was also a Chopin, but I think Moszkowski is just as good, but maybe less known nowadays. And I guess what appealed to me about this piece is he wrote a series of etudes just for the left hand alone. And I'm always interested in how to improve the left hand, because so much of what we do since we start learning the instrument is right hand oriented, all hands together. And even in jazz, a lot of the improvisation happens in the right hand. So there's a lot of one can learn from studying these composers, and Moszkowski shows how with a piece like this you really don't miss the right hand. It sounds very full and very complete. So I thought I would show you this piece by Moszkowski. This is one of his etudes. He wrote a series of 12. This is the first one. Thank you so much. That is an arrangement I made of an old standard called Skylark. It's originally performed as a ballad, and it's by Hoagie Carmichael and Johnny Mercer, who've written a lot of great standards, by the way, great American songbook standards. Some of my favorite composers. So now I'm going to play something that I wrote. This is my latest composition. And I wrote this while I was on tour a few months ago. I was touring with a drummer, Philippe Lem, and his band, Philippe Lem Trio. We were in the Netherlands, and he said, can you write something new for the trio? And of course, nothing like a deadline to inspire one, or to motivate one rather, to create things. So I think a day or two before the show, I just wrote this and brought it in to the sound check, and then we performed it that night. And over the course of the tour of 2-3 weeks, the piece gradually evolved and grew. So while we were performing it, though, this was the only one that didn't have a title, because I had the music, but I didn't have the title. And so in each performance, we would kind of throw it out to the audience. If you have any suggestions for titles, let us know. And people came up with all sorts of outlandish things, but it didn't quite fit. So it remained untitled for a few months. And then I thought, well, let's see what ChatGPT has to say about this. They say, ChatGPT. Well, I don't know if I would trust it to actually compose the whole tune yet. Maybe soon, but I thought, well, let's see what suggestions ChatGPT would have. Of course, I gave it a whole bunch of criteria and what I thought the piece reminded me of, and it came up with something that I quite liked and I thought suited it. This is called The Melancholy Hero. by Harold Arlen. Some of you might know wrote Over the Rainbow. And also Johnny Mercer wrote the lyrics for this as well. So, yeah, so I think, Harold Arlen wrote quite a few great compositions. And I actually had the opportunity to play his piano once in New York. And I got to play, and I played that piece, Over the Rainbow, on Harold Arlen's piano, which was a great honor. I would like to continue now with a very special piece, but also a very challenging piece. This is called Round Midnight. And the reason I'm playing this is I would like to dedicate this to Navroz Contractor, who passed away last week. And he is a very dear friend of mine, and also someone who really was a close companion in terms of sharing sharing music together. He's the one who kind of turned me on to jazz quite early on in my development, when I would go over to his place, and he had the most impressive collection of CDs and vinyls, and he would kind of introduce me to a lot of different jazz musicians and composers. I would go there, take 20, 30 CDs at a time, and he would let me borrow them and copy them and listen to it. So this was, so he was very instrumental in my development. And as we got old, we remained friends through the years, and every time I would come back into town, we would go together to the Koramanga Club and kind of talk about music, and he'd ask me what I'm doing. And also, many people know him for different reasons, of course, as his role in documentaries and photography, as a biker, but he was an incredible jazz photographer and documenter of jazz musicians, legends of jazz music, and his works are exhibited in the Smithsonian Center. So the reason I'm playing Round Midnight is because Navroz would tell me that any jazz musician worth their salt has to play this. Like, this is the kind of the litmus test. And that I stayed away from it for many years. In fact, I never played this piece. I've never played it. I've never performed it, really. But I felt that, to honor Navroz, I should play this, because Monk was his favorite jazz musician. And there's a quote of Monk's that says, "A genius is one who sounds most like himself, or who is most like himself." I think Navroz was certainly someone who was very much like himself. And so I would like to dedicate this piece to Navroz Contractor, and this is Round Midnight. Now I'd like to play something from Argentina. And this is a piece written by a friend of mine named Angelo Di Loreto. And he wrote this piece after visiting Argentina, or maybe he didn't visit, but he saw this dance, this Argentine folk dance called the Malambo. And it is done by only men who are carrying these huge drums, gigantic drums that are strapped to them. And the drum is called bombo leguero. And they play these drums and dance while playing them, which is pretty amazing. If you get the chance to look up the Malambo. And it's a very energetic, very vigorous dance. And when he saw this, he thought, wow, I wonder how many calories they burn when doing this. And he puts this under the category of cardio jazz. So this is a piece that I once again played, usually in a trio format with. Usually in a trio format. This is the first time I'll be playing it solo piano, but I think it's the piece is so well written that it actually stands on its own, even in a solo piano setting. So this is called the Malambo. So I think I'll play now last song for the evening, and this is something that is written by a jazz pianist named Dr. Billy Taylor. It's called "I Wish How I Knew It Would Feel to Be Free," and this is a piece I always liked. It's had a somewhat gospel sound to it, gospel influence, and it was written at the height of the civil rights movement in America. And one version that especially spoke to me is one done by Nina Simone, where she performed this song, sang and played piano. And there's an incredible version of this on YouTube, I think live at Montreux Festival. And I found it so moving that this is a piece I often like to play. This is called I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. And before I close, I would just like to say thank you all so much for coming. It's overwhelming to see so many familiar faces and new faces as well, all here. And it's really grateful to all of you for supporting. And also thank you to the BIC and to IMAS, International Music and Arts Society, and Urmila Devi for hosting this event. So thank you very much. And this is I Wish How I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free.
Thank you ever so much to Sharik for another brilliant and lyrical performance. I think if you clap hard enough, you'll come back for an encore. Thank you ever so much. I'd now like to request Mr. Feroz Bartha, Vice President of the International Music and Arts Society, please come on the stage and to present a token of appreciation from the Society.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and good night.